Single chapter, the judgment that changed everything. The town of San Vittorio was small, surrounded by old hills and stone-paved streets where everyone knew each other's names. At the center of the town stood St. Catherine's Church, a place that had long been seen as a symbol of faith and safety. Among its priests was Father Lorenzo, a respected man known for his powerful sermons and his ability to earn the trust of local families. But behind that image was something few people could see. Sofia Moretti was only 19 years old when she began attending the church's community gatherings. Like many young people in town, she believed priests were worthy of trust. Lorenzo showed a special interest in her, something that initially seemed like simple kindness. As the month passed, however, his behavior began to change. The compliments became more frequent and increasingly uncomfortable. Their conversations started taking place away from other church members. Whenever he found Sofia alone, Lorenzo would create reasons to spend extra time with her. Sofia tried to ignore the warning signs, convincing herself that she might be misunderstanding his intentions. Then, on a rainy evening after a community meeting, she stayed behind to help arrange chairs in the parish hall. Once everyone else had left, Lorenzo approached her and insisted that she accompany him to a storage room in the back to retrieve some documents. Trusting him, Sofia agreed. That was the moment everything changed. Inside the room, Lorenzo began acting inappropriately, moving closer to her and ignoring her obvious discomfort. Sofia tried to leave, but he continued making unwanted advances and inappropriate comments while briefly blocking her path. Frightened, she managed to get past him and ran down the hallway. Neither of them realized that someone had witnessed part of the incident. Father Matteo, after hearing Sofia's distressed voice, Matteo walked toward the room and saw her running away in tears. The look on her face told him everything he needed to know. When he entered the room and found Lorenzo alone, he immediately understood that something serious had happened. Over the following days, Matteo sought out Sofia. After much hesitation, she finally told him what had occurred. More than that, she revealed that this was not the first time Lorenzo had behaved this way. Other young women had experienced similar situations, but had been too afraid or ashamed to speak out. Matteo was devastated. For weeks, he tried to handle the matter through official channels. He spoke with church authorities, presented testimonies, and requested a proper investigation. In return, he was met with silence, bureaucracy, and warnings not to create a scandal. With every closed door, his frustration grew. Eventually, he made a decision he never imagined he would make.
On a moonless night, he walked to an isolated estate on the outskirts of town. There lived Don Salvatore Romano, the powerful boss of the local mafia organization. The old mob boss listened carefully without interrupting. When Matteo finished telling the story, Don Salvatore remained silent for several moments. "If what you're telling me is true," he finally said, "then this man used people's trust to prey on the innocent." Matteo simply nodded. A few days later, Lorenzo disappeared. The news spread quickly throughout the town. Some believed he had been transferred to another parish. Others thought he had fled. The truth was known only by a select few. Don Salvatore's men had investigated every accusation. They spoke with victims, gathered testimonies, and reached the same conclusion as Matteo. Lorenzo was guilty. The mobsters showed him no mercy. In their eyes, there were certain crimes that could never be forgiven, and abusing a position of religious authority to exploit young women ranked among the worst. Lorenzo was subjected to the organization's own judgment and was never seen in San Vittorio again. But the consequences did not end there. Months later, church leaders discovered Matteo's involvement with the mafia. Although many acknowledged that his intentions had been to protect victims, the church considered it unacceptable for a priest to turn to organized crime. The proceedings were swift. Matteo was stripped of his position and expelled from the priesthood. On the day he left the church for the last time, he walked alone through the empty halls where he had spent much of his life. He looked at the pews, the altar, and the stained glass windows illuminated by the morning sunlight. He knew he would never stand there again. Without a place in the church and rejected by many of his former colleagues, Matteo gradually became closer to Don Salvatore. At first, he served as an advisor, then as an intermediary, and eventually as a member of the organization itself. Years passed. The town continued to tell stories about the former priest who had abandoned his collar. Some called him a traitor. Others saw him as a man who had done what no one else had the courage to do. In his old age, Matteo often sat alone on the veranda of the Romano estate. Whenever someone asked whether he regretted his choices, his answer was always the same. I lost my church that day, but Sophia got her voice back, and other young women got their peace back. Then he would fall silent, staring toward the horizon, because in his mind, the price had been high, but allowing Lorenzo to continue would have cost far more.